Well, we're about to start this lesson called Urban Features. So it's the next lesson after storm drain setup. And essentially we're just going to be adding buildings to the map. So we load the building shape file from the buildings folder, and then we prepare the map by unchecking the grid layer and turning off some of the other layers. And then we start with this digitizing process. So for this, we will want to add a shape digitizing toolbar and use this shape to do some of our digitizing. So let's go ahead and get that data loaded. So if you are in external projects, I've already done it. You can see my buildings there. You'll just want to drag your building polygons right onto the map and drop them on here. And then down in here, there's some missing buildings that we'll be adding. But before we do that, I did change the symbology of this to lime green. I just put lime green in here, and then I turned this one to no pen. And then let's go ahead and zoom down here, and let's grab a couple of new toolbars. So the one is called Shape Digitizing Toolbar. You could also do Advanced Digitizing Toolbar, but I don't think we need that, so let's stick with Shape Digitizing. And then we'll select this, and we will click the Edit pencil and click and add a polygon, but we want to turn this off. Let's see, I want to turn that off. Oh, kind of forgot how to do that. Regular polygon from 2 points. No, I don't want that. I don't want it to use that, so maybe this is kind of new and I don't know how to unuse it. So maybe you just have to do like that. Yeah, I guess that's just do it like that. And the reason I did that is because I want to draw this irregular shaped building with an irregular polygon, and the digitizing tool is for regular shaped polygons. So we're just coming in here and clicking the corners of this building. And I'm not being super careful with this because it's not important to be super careful with it. Let's just go over here and okay, and then I'm just going to zoom out, and once it's finished I'll right click, and I do not need to do anything here, so I'm just going to hit the enter key or click OK, and that puts that building right here. I'm not going to worry about these ones that are on the boundary. I don't like to digitize things on my boundary. And let's go ahead and zoom in a couple more of these so we can see some different tools. So the next tool will be, we're still on add a polygon, but this time we want to change this from a rectangle from extent. And this is very easy, okay? You just pick up one corner with a left click, and then you pick up the second corner with a right click, and then again it's enter or OK. And so that makes it really fast to digitize these. And I'm not entering any data yet because I'm going to do that all at the end with the attribute editor. So you don't have to enter that data individually because it's all basically the same. And again, I'm ignoring these ones that are on the boundary. And just about done here. So you can see how quick that is. And you can hear me hitting that enter key. It makes it a little faster. Another one on the boundary that's a little weird. I'm just going to leave it. And then a couple here that are irregularly oriented. So for those, you'll grab the rectangle from 3 points, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And this one will be a little different. So it'll be left click, and then right click. That way you can pick up that angle. Left click, and then a right click, and again an enter. And I have another one of these that I've left over here. So just a left click, and a right click. And if you mess up or you don't like it, just cancel it and try it again. So that'll be a left click, and a right click, enter. And that, let's just call that good for now. All right, that's good for now. And so now we are going to save this And so that will preserve these guys, but we're not finished, so don't turn the editor off yet. Next is to go to the attribute editor or the attribute table, and we're in edit mode, as you can see. So what we have to do now is to go and find those layers that we just added, or excuse me, those features that we just added. And as you can see, they are all right here. And we need to fill in these data for collapse, ARF, and WRF. Collapse, I don't think any of these buildings would collapse in a storm because they're pretty far away from the coastline. So let's set collapse equal to 0. If they were closer to the coastline, you might want to give them a collapse equal to 1. It's just a switch. And let's click either update all or update selected because we don't have anything for collapse. Okay. And then we change to ARF, which is area reduction factor. This becomes a 1, and we do update selected. And then we set this to WRF, and this becomes a 0 because calculating WRF with reduction factors takes a long time, and it kind of slows your model down, doesn't let the water move on the grid as well. So I just stopped using them several years ago and update selected. So for complex two-dimensional urban flood routing, I don't use width reduction factors, I just use area reduction factors. And then we click save and OK. Now, if you just downloaded this data from the county, you might not have to go through all that. You might, digitizing these buildings might already be updated because the county keeps track of this. If you are in a county that doesn't really have that kind of data, you can also get that from OpenStreetMap. At the beginning, I am going to, well, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Now we need to do the calculator. So collapse your widgets, go to Grid Tools, and we want to grab this one right here, Area Width Reduction Calculator, and we want an external layer. We'll set that to Building Polygons because that's our layer name, and the collapse field goes to collapse, and the ARF field goes to ARF, and the WRF field goes to WRF, right? And it's ready to click OK, and click OK. And so that shouldn't take very long because we have, taken out those width reduction factors. So that should go pretty fast. And once it's finished, it'll probably tell you that it's done. And you'll start to see the map change a little bit. Okay, ARFs and WRFs calculated. And all changes to that layer can be overwritten. That's fine. And what you should see now is that you have these new polygons that represent your blocked areas. And you also have, so we can turn those off now, it just copied them to that layer and then processed it. And you also have these ARF, WRF variables. And as you can see, there are no WRFs. If there were, they would be these little lines around each of these buildings. So what we're doing is we're giving it an area reduction factor for these partially blocked buildings, but only totally blocking these guys in here. And that means that, and then of course, in addition to that, you also want to make sure that your rain on building switch is on, because what's going to happen is that as the rain falls on the building, it will be pushed off the building by a little correction procedure that Jim developed to force the water off the building. But the water that kind of comes through the neighborhood will have to be routed around the buildings by these blocked cells. So that's kind of the purpose of the area reduction factor. And let's talk now about the switch. So if we turn on the switch, you can see right there, area reduction factor, you're going to need to check that switch on and then make sure that you save that. I'd already done that because this is the second time I've done this because I messed up the first video. And let's get to the point where I messed up the video. So what I have here, let's remove this. And let's remove this because that's going to come later on in the different lesson. And let's remove this. Okay. So what we want to do is let's minimize some stuff here, okay? And we want to right click over here and add a group called OpenStreetMap Downloader. So OSM Downloader. And what we're going to do is use OSM Downloader to download these buildings, okay? And that's pretty simple. You're just going to go with this guy. Well, let's maybe turn off this digitizer because it kind of gets in the way. So right click and just turn that guy off, shape digitizing toolbar. And then our OSM Downloader is this button here. It's kind of hard to see, so try not to lose it. You click it, and then what you can do is you can just build a rectangle around your project like that. And this is the extent of that rectangle. We need to save that. And I have already made a file for that called, hang on a sec, Coastal 2D, Project Data, Buildings, OSM Buildings. And I'm going to delete that one. OSM Buildings, and click OK, and click Save. Yeah, I wanted to go in there. And click Save and load the layer after download, and that's going to start downloading those OpenStreetMaps as vectors. And now we can extract the buildings out of there. So first of all, let's get rid of that guy, and let's get rid of that guy, and let's also get rid of those. Okay, so we want to be able to see those buildings, and we don't need this, and we don't need that. And we don't need that. I don't even know what that is. And we do need this guy. But what we want is to uncheck protected areas, and we want to check buildings, right? We want to check buildings, pitch, stadium, track. All right, don't worry about those. And just take care of those. These are just your zoom levels. And then we should be able to just see buildings. And then what we want to do is select those buildings because we want to export them. And actually we don't want all of them, right? We just kind of want the ones that are within our buffer. We want the ones that are within a buffer of our a handful of grid elements buffer of our project area, so something like that. And then if you don't want ones that cross your buffer, you come in here and you hit the control button, and you can just take those off and unselect the ones you don't want to cross your boundary. That looks like we did a fairly decent job there. And now we right click. Now pay attention to these positions, okay? We're going to export this data into a shapefile, and we're going to call this OSM building shapefile. We're going to just replace what's there. And what we want to do is save only selected features because we limited that. And we want to change this to our project coordinate system. And that should be okay. So we click OK, and we overwrite that file. And now we have this. We can put that back in here, and we can uncheck that. And then anything that's sort of on our boundary, again, you might want to take that off. But as you can see, that is a pretty good way to get to download buildings if you don't already have buildings, through your county. What you do want to make sure of, though, is that you don't have things like lanais or parking structures, things that rain can just go straight through, right? Or floodwater can just go straight through. So just do be careful of that, those kind of buildings. And then you can use that data. Of course, I'm sorry, once you have that data, I apologize. I was going to show you one more thing. You do have to add those extra fields. Okay, so we are going to be adding a new field, collapse. And that is an integer, and it's only 1. Oops, sorry, 1. And one more, arf. Same thing, a 1 length integer, and werf, and a 1 length integer. And then we grab those. This one goes to 0, update all. This one goes to arf, and 1, update all. And this one goes to werf, and 0, and update all, and then let's just go check those, and they look good. So we save that, and then if there's anything crossing the boundary, like I do think that you want to maybe just delete those vertices that are crossing the boundary, because that might actually mess up your, that one's probably close enough away from your boundary. I think if they cross your boundary, they might mess up your calculation. So let's just get rid of those. That's not going to work at all. I screwed that one up. So we gotta just delete the whole thing and put it back in. So let's go back to our Google Satellite and we'll just pop that one back in. Oh shoot, escape. I gotta put this back to segment. Okay, that's better. And let's just kind of stay away from our boundary a little bit. I'm not going to go totally nutso on this. Right click, and then we'll just, since we only did 1, 0. Oh, I see. It is taking it. I'm just not paying attention. So 0, 1, 0. Okay. And then if you don't like that, you can just do something like that. Kind of just get it a little better. And again, what we're looking for is ones that cross the boundary and getting them off the boundary. So back to our vertex selection tool and just getting rid of those ones that are crossing the boundary. We'll check our top boundary. I thought we did a really good job up here. Yeah, and then we'll check our side boundary. And again, and just so you know, sometimes buildings change. So this one's okay, but sometimes they do change and you need to come in and, you know, take care of it. And like I got rid of that one. And I don't want that one. And this one, you know, you could do this one, just keep it away from the boundary maybe. Zero, 1, 0. Okay. And save. And I think that's good. Everything else looks okay. And the same thing, you know, you just come in here and you would, oops, sorry, you would set your ARF external layer, select the new one. This one goes to collapse, ARF, WRF, and you would click OK. I'm going to skip it because we've already done it. So we'll turn that off and remove that and save. Now let's export this to our ARF, our building export test. Let me just make sure and just delete that. And reduction factors, and we know the switch is on because there's no asterisk near it, so that means the switch is on. So we don't have to check the switch again. And then of course, it wants to know if we would be exporting the storm drain. Yes, we definitely want to do that. So let's make sure we grab the right folder to export the storm drain, because, whoops, that is the wrong location. Project export, building export. Didn't make any changes there. INP, other data files, and now we can run Flow2D. You shouldn't have to change this once you do your export. It should change it for you. Sometimes I check it when I'm being paranoid. And that's it. So once we're letting that get started, we will then save and make a backup of that building layer too. And then once you see these guys show up, you just turn it down, because we're already going to run the storm drain lesson and the mitigation lesson, and the next set is mitigations. That is the end of the video.